This story is set in the land of the white elephant, Thailand. The plot is going to focus on a contractor employee named Billy. He is on his way to school to attend the Father's Day celebration ceremony. Ami, his daughter, seems bummed about her dad showing up there. She was embarrassed by her father because he's known for being a former high school delinquent. Even so, Billy, being a father, didn't want to just let it slide. But just as he was about to follow her, his boss calls him up demanding to discuss work issues. At the same time, a huge gang fight suddenly breaks out right when Ami is in the middle of all the chaos. As a result of that incident, Ami is bleeding from her leg. Billy couldn't stand seeing his daughter in that situation anymore. He immediately forces open his vehicle's door and takes her straight to the hospital. While the operation is going on, Billy is visited by Ami's homeroom teacher, Mr. Suika. It turns out they already knew each other. Mr. Suika, seeing the scars on Billy's hand, seems to remember a tragedy from the past. And this is The Four Kings. The story is going to focus on Billy's past life when he was young. More precisely, back in 1995. That was when 4 different vocational high schools, nicknamed The Four Kings, were constantly fighting each other and often got into brawls. At that time, Billy was known as the leader of the vocational school group called Intira High. He and his 2 best friends were the main guys on the front line whenever a fight broke out. By coincidence, they were looking for trouble that day, and they found a group of students from another vocational school hanging out on the side of the road. Even though it was only 4 of them, Billy and his buddies dominated the fight. Soon after, Mr. Suika, who was actually a student from another school, shows up and slices Billy's back from behind. Billy was rushed to the hospital and got about 18 stitches. Billy's parents, hearing the news, immediately came and straight up slapped him because he was always causing trouble. Oda, who is Billy's best friend, was picking up his girlfriend from her school. His girlfriend, let's call her Yuli, suddenly tells him that she's pregnant. Oda was shocked and didn't seem to believe it at first. He assured Yuli that he was ready to take responsibility. Not far from there, Oda suddenly sees students from the Bura school waiting for him. However, because all the schools had previously agreed on an important rule not to attack anyone when they were with a girl, the Bura students, led by Tang, decide not to attack. They let Oda pass right by. That night, Billy decides to crash at Oda's house. Luckily, Oda's mother is super nice and lets Billy stay whenever he wants. It wasn't like his mother and stepfather at home. Oda's mom, Ms. Toulouse, treats Billy just like her own son, which makes Billy feel even more comfortable staying there. Meanwhile, Suika and his crew were waiting for their rivals, Billy and his friends. But who shows up instead is a local thug named Yadi. He still wants to be acknowledged as a big shot among the 4 Kings conflict. Instead of fighting fair and square, Yadi brought a pistol to shoot Suika. But guess what happened? Since he forgot to load the bullets, Yadi gets pummeled by Suika and his crew, who beat him up real bad. The next day, Billy is seen hanging out with Oda and another friend named Lupin. They were talking about a music concert that was supposedly happening in a few weeks. Knowing that concert would be a meetup for all 4 schools, Oda suggested that Billy and Lupin shouldn't go there because it would definitely turn into a massive brawl. Soon, a kid shows up with a special message for Lupin about a girl who had a crush on him for a long time. Lupin, who is easily tricked by suspicious stuff, immediately went to the location to meet her, but it turns out it was a trap set by a vocational school called Kanak, who wanted to attack them separately. Lupin is lured into chasing the kid, not knowing that 2 Kanak gangs were waiting for him there. Who knows what happened to Lupin? But that night, Billy decides to go home. But as soon as Billy sets foot inside, his stepfather yells at him, which pisses him off, and he decides to leave again. Oda's mom, who is always welcoming, immediately lets him stay without even asking why. In the middle of the night, Billy and Oda talk to each other. But it wasn't just random dude talk. It was a heart-to-heart about Yuli being pregnant. Oda confesses he hasn't told his mother yet because as a real man, he's gonna solve this problem himself. A real man doesn't get a girl pregnant, boss. You gotta marry her first, idiot. The next day, Billy, Lupin, and Oda are seen leading their crew to get into a brawl with the Bura school. But unexpectedly, the Call School gang joins in, showing up from behind. So Billy and his friends who are stuck in the middle have to use extra energy to deal with both schools at once. And yeah, the police show up and immediately secure all of them. Billy and the 2 other school leaders are taken straight to the police station. Meanwhile, Oda and the rest of the grunt troops are held temporarily at the scene to wait for the next police transport. Not wanting to be taken to the police station, Oda starts signaling Suika to work together and put their beef aside for a bit. Oda and Suika pretend to fight to get attention. So when the officers tell them to go one-on-one, the entire crew is deployed, given the signal, and they run away. We go back to Billy, who is already in jail with Ivan, and another guy named Ohang, who is the vice leader of the call school. Soon after, Billy's mother and stepfather arrived there, but they didn't come to bail him out. Instead, they actually filed an additional report so Billy would be kept in jail to teach him a lesson. His mother could only cry seeing her son's fate, who was always unlucky and looking for trouble. Billy just stays quiet without even looking at his mother. The next day, Billy and the two leaders are moved to another correctional facility and are put together with senior inmates. Most of them are criminal gangsters, not petty street fighters like them. So, realizing the situation is going to be different, Billy and the two leaders have no choice but to work together for their safety. And who would have thought that Yadi, the local thug who was brandishing a pistol that night, was already in this prison with his old buddies? With his arrogant attitude, Yadi approaches the three of them just to threaten them and start a fight. Billy, who can't stand people with a big mouth, was about to react, but he's stopped by his two friends. Later that afternoon during the shower time, Billy, Ivan, and Ohang run into Yadi again, who is already there. Instead of washing up and taking a shower in peace, Yadi, with his annoying mug, provokes the three of them again. Billy, who had run out of patience, punches him right away. But right after the warm-up, the prison guard shows up and only takes Billy and Ohang, who were considered the troublemakers. In a special room, the two of them are tortured by being hit with a metal rod. Even though they're completely worn out, Billy and Ohang are told to get up to take another beating. Let's leave Billy for a moment and switch to Oda. He is seen visiting Yuli's house to meet her parents face to face. Instead of being kindly received so he could express his true intentions, Oda is immediately kicked out and is forbidden from going near their daughter again. So, annoyed, Oda is straight up honest about Yuli's pregnancy right now. Just as Ivan is being visited by his mother, we see that far from being a tough guy and a delinquent, Ivan is actually a mama's boy who is always polite and respects his parents. This is proven when Ivan feels embarrassed for causing trouble for his mother, even shedding tears. A few days later, Billy, Ivan, and Ohang become closer because the situation forces them to always be together. After a lot of talk about their lives and the problems they were facing, Billy blurts out a question about whether they would fight again. Well, of course they wouldn't fight anymore because they had become good friends. However, to protect their image and the name of their respective schools, they agree to pretend they're still enemies and try to avoid brawls so they don't hurt each other again. A few weeks go by and Billy, Ohang, and Ivan are released after serving their sentence. Lupin and Oda are seen waiting for him outside, including his mother, who wants to apologize and give Billy some provisions. Billy will be staying at Oda's house for a while. Once they get to Oda's house, Billy, who hasn't played guitar in a long time, asks Oda to sing their favorite song. It was Kap Wan Nan. After finishing the song, Billy and Oda talk about the music concert that is scheduled in a few days. Oda refuses to go at first because he knows the concert will be a meetup for all four schools, and it'll definitely end in a brawl. But Billy, who needs some fun, keeps persuading him until Oda agrees to go. All right, it's the night of the concert. All the spectators are jumping and singing along to the beautiful and confusing music. As predicted, the four schools, the four kings, are there with their entire crews. Among all the students, Suika from the call school is the most intense, observing the movements of the other schools. When the time comes, the four schools immediately gather, and this is what happens. Who knows how messy the fight was, but a student from the call school is seriously injured. Some witnesses at the scene said it was done by a student from the Intira school, which is Billy and his friend's school. So, Suika, who is super mad, intends to launch a counterattack. At the same time, Billy, Lupin, and Oda look really happy after being considered the winners of the brawl. Oda, who wants to know about Yuli, tries to call her. And what was her answer? She was acting crazy, man. Oda immediately goes to Yuli's house after hearing that her father plans to terminate the pregnancy. Accompanied by Billy and Lupin, Oda begs the father not to do it. But his reaction is totally understandable when the father pulls out a pistol and threatens Oda to leave. Filled with sincere intentions to take responsibility, Oda kneels down while saying that he is serious about taking responsibility. He promises to find a good job and provide for Yuli in an honest way. The father finally gives in and agrees to cancel his plan. Unbeknownst to all of them, a student from the call school is seen in the distance. He immediately calls Suika to come to the location. However, when he arrives, Oda is still kneeling in front of Yuli's parents. Realizing the timing is all wrong, Suika, who still has some manners and a conscience, decides not to attack and will find a better time. Long story short, graduation day arrives. Billy, Lupin, and Oda are seen gathering to discuss their future plans. Oda is definitely going to look for a job right away to provide for Yuli and their unborn baby. Meanwhile, Lupin is going to college at one of the universities, and Billy himself? Who knows? He admits he still has no idea, but inspired by the John Wick story, Billy might be unemployed for a while. A few days later, Billy is seen waiting for Lupin, who just finished his university entrance exam. Suika also took the same test. Lupin tells him that he passed the test. To celebrate this good news, they plan to hang out at a cafe. Just as they are about to leave, Yadi shows up, still with his ridiculous ambition of making a name for himself among the Four Kings conflict. But Billy and his friends, who are tired of the drama, just leave without paying him any attention or even caring. Before heading to the cafe, Billy calls Oda to ask him to come to the cafe to celebrate Lupin passing the test. But since Oda is still at home, he tells Billy and his friends to go ahead first. Yadi still won't quit trying to be a big shot. This time, he and his friends are driving around looking for students from the four schools. They plan to jump anyone they see. In the same cafe that Billy and his friends are heading to, Suika and his vice leader, who is none other than Ohang, are already there. They are discussing revenge for the concert incident a while ago. As we know, Ohang has become good friends with Billy in prison. So, hearing Suika planning an aggressive move, Ohang is a little hesitant. But since he can't tell the truth, Ohang just agrees to everything Suika says. Soon, the guys they were waiting for show up, Billy and his friends. After a brief stare-down, with their tables close to each other, Billy, who is tired of fighting, decides to end the feud. He does this by walking over to Suika's table, pouring their drinks into a glass, and drinking together as a symbol of peace between the two sides. And yeah, Billy was almost killed by a slice from Suika. But just as the tension is building, Yadi, the annoying punk, shows up with a pistol in his hand. Seeing all of them defenseless, Yadi reloads his bullet to finish them off one by one. But it was a really unfortunate fate for Oda. He is accidentally shot in a vital area. The tension immediately ends as Billy and his friends rush to Oda, who is already lifeless. With Oda's death, Billy promises to take care of the unborn baby that Yuli is carrying. It is then revealed that Ami, the girl who was with him in the opening scene, is not his biological daughter, but the daughter of his best friend Oda, whom he raised like his own child. Back to the present, Billy, Lupin, and Suika are seen gathering with Ami, whose condition is slowly getting better. Seeing Billy, her adoptive father, encouraging a teacher to drink makes Ami angry. She immediately leaves them. As a teacher and her class advisor, Suika feels the need to follow Ami. He wants to give her some perspective and tell her the whole story about what really happened. Hearing the story, Ami immediately remembers a childhood memory when her grandmother was still alive. Billy never failed to visit her and brought money home. Even after her grandmother passed away, Billy happily played the role of both father and mother, always staying by her side. Finally, we are shown the Kanok and Bura schools, which are apparently still in conflict, and it looks like it will continue in the next film. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.